In the year 1904, Robert Eugene Otto was just a child living with his family in a large, Victorian-style house in Key West, Florida. His family was wealthy, and they employed a servant from the Caribbean who was believed to practice voodoo. As the story goes, this servant, who was said to have been mistreated by the Otto family, gave Gene a gift that would forever alter his life: a doll. The doll was not like any ordinary toy. It was handmade, with a face that many people found unsettling, and it was dressed in a sailor suit, complete with a hat. The doll was quite large, around 40 inches tall, and was made of a cloth body with a face that looked human-like, but eerily lifeless. Gene named the doll Robert, or after himself. The doll quickly became his constant companion, and soon, strange things began to happen, the early signs of trouble. At first, everything seemed harmless. Gene would spend hours talking to the doll, treating it as a living being. However, the people around him soon began to notice unusual occurrences. Robert the doll was not just a plaything. It seemed to have a life of its own. Neighbors and family members began to hear strange noises coming from Gene's room, giggles, footsteps, and even the sound of furniture moving. At night, they would sometimes hear Gene talking to the doll in a manner that sounded as though the doll was responding, though no one else could hear the words coming from Robert. As time passed, Robert's behavior became increasingly unsettling. Gene would often be found conversing with the doll, sometimes defending it when others voiced their concerns. It wasn't just the doll's movements and sounds that caused unease. It was the fact that Robert seemed to exhibit a personality of its own. The doll would appear to change its facial expression, from a smiling face to one that looked menacing. And the longer Gene had the doll, the more bizarre things became. The doll's growing power family members began to report that the doll's movements were becoming more pronounced. At times, they would enter Gene's room to find that Robert had moved to a different position, sitting on the bed, standing by the window, or even perched on a chair. Some family members claimed that the doll's face would change, shifting from a neutral expression to one of anger or malice. One of the most chilling incidents occurred when Gene's parents heard loud noises coming from their son's room. Night. When they rushed in, they found the room in disarray, with furniture overturned, and Robert sitting calmly at the foot of the bed. Gene, however, was terrified, insisting that it was not he who had made the mess, but the doll itself. It seemed as though Robert was becoming more than just an object. He was taking control of the room and, in some ways, the house. As Gene grew older, his attachment to the doll remained strong. He would often take Robert with him around the house, and his behavior became increasingly odd. He was reported to be more reclusive, speaking to the doll as though it were a real person. Robert seemed to have an influence over Gene's actions, and the boy's demeanor became darker and more introverted. The doll's curse. As the years went on, the Otto family's household became increasingly unstable. Visitors to the house would often feel uneasy in Robert's presence, sensing a strange, heavy energy in the room. Some would hear the doll's giggles. Others would claim to have seen its eyes move or its facial expression shift. And those who were brave enough to be in the room alone with Robert reported an intense feeling of being watched by something not entirely human. When Gene Otto reached adulthood, he eventually moved away from his childhood home. But Robert, the doll, remained behind. The Otto family eventually sold the house, but Robert was not forgotten. The doll was left in an attic room, locked away, until the 1990s when the house was purchased again. The museum and the legend grows. In the 1990s, Robert the doll was discovered once more, this time in a deteriorated state, but still very much intact. The new owners of the house, aware of the doll's infamy, decided to donate it to the Forteist Martello Museum in Key West, where it would be displayed for the public to see. The museum's staff soon realized that Robert the doll still carried a strange aura with him. Visitors reported feeling uncomfortable when they were near the doll. Some said they felt as though they were being watched, while others claimed to have heard faint giggles or footsteps. Some people even reported taking photographs of the doll, only to find later that its expression had changed between shots. A common belief surrounding Robert is that it can curse people who show it disrespect, such as by taking a photo without asking for permission. Those who do so are said to experience bad luck, which many claim lasts until they write a letter of apology to Robert. Despite being kept in a glass case at the museum, Robert the doll has continued to inspire both fear and fascination. The legend of his curse, his unsettling presence, and the strange occurrences surrounding him continue to intrigue people from around the world. The curse of Robert today, Robert the doll is one of the most famous haunted objects in the world. Visitors to the museum can view him from a distance, but many choose to write a letter asking for Robert's forgiveness if they wish to take a photograph. The curse is said to be powerful, with some individuals claiming to have experienced misfortune after disrespecting the doll. Whether or not Robert the doll is truly cursed remains a mystery, but the strange occurrences surrounding him suggest that something supernatural may be at play. The story of Robert the doll has become a part of Key West's folklore, and his legend continues to haunt the imaginations of those who hear his tale. In the end, whether you believe in the curse or not, one thing is certain. Robert the doll has a way of leaving a lasting impression, one that can be felt long after you've left his presence.